Hi everyone, welcome back. We are still doing game reviews on Chess with Nas. Today we're going to do a game review of a game that was, for the most part, balanced. It was not tipping in any side, white or black. Uh, but then I found a combination which really my opponent fell for and got a bit greedy, and the engine actually classified it as a brilliant move. So uh, really proud of that. But let's get into it. Let me show you what actually happened. One other thing that I want to mention is that in this game, my opponent brought out their queen earlier than they should have, which I also think led to their downfall. So let's take a look at what exactly happened over here. So pretty standard opening, e4, e5. So far, so good. Uh, I like taking this pawn when it comes to the Scotch Gambit. So I don't like any of this business where the pawn moves forward and attacks my knight. Now my knight doesn't have a good square to go to. It could go here, but then I got pressure coming in from here, so I don't like that stuff. So I just take the pawn. Uh, by taking back, my opponent is committing to the Scotch game. This would have been the Scotch Gambit. So moving on, I take back, my opponent brings their queen out. So this is all theory so far. Nothing out of the ordinary, pretty standard game. Uh, I made this move because there's very few good options left. Like if I move this up over here, my opponent possibly could move their pawn up over here and try to trade queens off early in the game, makes me move my king, and now I'm forced to I lose my castling rights. Uh, I can't bring my bishop out anywhere. This is not a good square. I'll be blocking my besides with my queen taking it. Queen takes here, here, here. So bishop's out of the question. Now I could move my knight out over here, but then one pawn move, and now suddenly I got to figure out what to do with my knight. So I move this up with the intention that I'm gonna do pawn break over here and ask my opponent, what do you want to do with this pawn? So we move forward. Opponent gives a check. I bring my bishop. This is actually a mistake by me because I left this pawn hanging, so my opponent could have taken this easily and then potentially, just targeted my rook, and there was no easy way for me to defend it. In fact, I don't think there was a way to defend it. Uh, but even so, game went on. My opponent didn't catch that, so my opponent went back, which was a miss on their part. I noticed that, pulled my pawn up. I could have brought my knight out too, but pulling my pawn up seemed better. Now my opponent brought the queen back. Look at this though. Queen from here to here to here to here, here to here, and then back over here. My opponent has made 4 moves already with the queen, and all of their pieces are on the back rank right now. How do you win a game like this? You can't. It's very hard to. So I continue developing. I'm going to bring my minor pieces out every opportunity that I get. Uh, Continue with the plan. Instead of going to d5, I'm going to go to d4 because I want to shoo this queen away now. The queen's in my space. Queen moves away. Uh, I have a discovered attack right now. Can you spot it? Right there. I'm attacking the queen 2 different ways. I'm also potentially uh, well, no, I'm not doing that just yet, but I'm also potentially looking at ideas where I can, kind of sacrifice this over here and then bring this out and check it, because my queen is backing it up. So all those things are happening as well. But queen moves back over here. So queen's in my territory right now, which is a very dangerous space for a queen to be by themselves. So uh, this, of course, was a blunder. So this was a blunder that my opponent didn't pick up on. And the reason why this is a blunder is because my opponent can move their pawn up over here, and if I move my bishop anywhere, my knight is hanging. So I should have moved my knight away first. That's what I should have done. My opponent didn't pick up on that either. So I just continue on. Uh, Now my bishop is protected. My opponent should not move this pawn up now because their king is castled. They've committed to that side of castling. I'm bringing my queen up because I want to castle king side, queen side, so I can start breaking into the king's territory, the opponent's territory. My opponent played their rook out, pretty standard move. I'm protecting, pretty standard all this stuff so far. Takes. The reason I took with this, so here's why this was a great move. This is a great move because it targets my opponent's rook. And there isn't a very good way to defend this except for here. Uh, Pawn over here. If my opponent tries to defend with the knight, by bringing the knight out, I just take the knight. And now it's a fork between this rook and this rook. So if my opponent brings the bishop out over here, then I just take the bishop because it's not protected. So this was a great move because of that. But my opponent found a good combination. My opponent took with this. Uh, The reason my opponent could not, you know, I mean, if my opponent played this, my plan was to go here in any ways. So uh, by taking this, my opponent kind of avoids that. Because if I take with my bishop, then my king is pinned. And now essentially I just lose my bishop over this trade because my opponent's going to move their pawn up and now my bishop is gone. So I took back with the pawn. The computer thinks I should have taken with the bishop. I don't know why. I would have lost a bishop over there because all my opponent had to do was this, but I'm not sure what that was. Regardless, so pawn comes up, I castle. Now here is where it gets interesting. My opponent made this move. Now here is where I noticed an idea which wasn't perfect, but it was possible to happen. And that was sacrificing my queen. Now look what happens here. My opponent cannot take my queen, because if my opponent takes my queen, that's checkmate. If my opponent tried to bring their queen here, I just take back. And then my opponent has to take my queen back, and that's checkmate again. So that doesn't work either. Let's say my opponent, I didn't take that back, right? I mean, I would take that back, but the only probable move that my opponent could have made, the best move that my opponent could have made was bishop here, because the bishop is protected by the knight. So even if I take this, the knight takes back, and now I'm down by a piece. I'm down material. So that would have been the better move, and that's actually a blunder. So that wouldn't be happening anyways. But that's why that was a brilliant move, because my opponent had no better way of defending it except for bishop coming out over here, or maybe even knight coming out over here. Both were possible, knight or bishop coming out over here. Oh, I'm sorry, knight wouldn't work because that doesn't protect the rook. So it had to be bishop coming out. It had to be bishop over here. So if I take, bishop takes back. And even then, I have this strong pin over here. So now, even if my opponent brings their king out over here, I still have some tactics to bring my rook over here and all of that stuff. But in this game, my friends, unfortunately, my opponent got greedy and actually took my queen because they didn't see what was happening. They had tunnel vision, or probably they overthought this whole process. And that just led to checkmate. So when you see a good move, look for a great move. When you see a great move, look for a brilliant move as much as you can. It's not always easy. Sometimes you get lucky, like I just did. My opponent actually fell for a trap. If my opponent had played logically, then I would have been up a pawn, but my opponent fell for this trap because they saw queen, and I guess they had tunnel vision because of that. But that was the game. It was a quick game. It was 18 moves and checkmate. Thank you so much for watching, folks. Take care.